Why play MMO solo? I have been wanting to watch this video every day for like a week. And every day gets put off. So today we're going to actually watch it. Wait, is this a Guild Wars screenshot? Right here? Okay. Let's mute the sound so I can hear it. Okay.
What is an MMO RPG?
Because you're a loner and sad? I'll be honest with y'all. In the evenings, I usually like to play MMOs by myself. I'm usually a solo player. But the reason for that is because I tend to get up a lot. I tend to be moving around and doing like a lot of different things at the same time. And if there's other people in the group, like I know they're waiting on me and like they're expecting me to like do like go certain places and do certain things. And I just kind of like being off on my own, doing whatever. I also like to listen to podcasts or listen to YouTube or listen to streams whenever I'm playing in the evening, to just like listen to an audiobook or something like that. And when I'm listening to that, I can't put attention on other people. I love to combine like MMO grindy content with listening to an audiobook or podcast. Like it's the best for me. It's the most relaxing thing. And so that's a big reason why I tend to just do solo stuff at night in the evenings. But maybe other people have different reasons.
A question asked by scholars and philosophers alike. How do we define this genre?
What's
this
an
question is
MMO?
actually so volatile and divisive in the MMO community, it really needs its own series of videos split over several specific...
Well, why would that be a divisive question, Mr. Hayes? It's an MMO. It's a massively multiplayer online erotic role-playing game.
topics. So let's do that. Let's dive into this fascinating genre and really ask, what is it? From the acronym MMORPG itself to the games we know as MMORPGs to the games we describe as MMOs which aren't quite. What are we actually talking about? Quick note, this video is kindly sponsored by Guild Wars 2, which is definitely an MMORPG, unlike Guild Wars 1, which is an online RPG. What's the...
Uh-oh, this video is sponsored by Guild Wars 2. Uh-oh. Does this mean, hey, if I watch this video, does it mean I'm going to start simping for Guild Wars 2? Does it mean I'm going to start talking about Guild Wars 2 all this time if I watch this video? I better not. You better not get me with your propaganda, Mr. Josh.
The difference? Let's find out.
Uh-oh.
As always, thank you to the supporters on Patreon who allow me to keep making these videos. Several YouTubers far smarter than me have already made excellent videos examining what an MMORPG even is, from breaking down the acronym to analysing games that we would commonly describe as MMORPGs. And while we've made some advancement into working out what the hell this genre even is, there's only two things we really, as a community, agree on. One, Steam doesn't know what an MMO is, because the MMO tagged games are always quite strange.
True.
And two, an MMO is a game in which there is a fishing minigame. That's
the catfishing?
About as far as we've got. As for why fishing...
You mean the catfishing minigame, yeah.
Specifically,
I would say it's more than a minigame.
Has a brilliant video on why so many games turn to that exact thing. If you're interested in game design, go and give it a watch. I'll link it in the description. But beyond fishing, what is an MMORPG? Well, the acronym stands for Massively Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Game. So I wanted to break this down and examine each bit individually. How massive? Multiplayer in what context? Is it always online?
Really massive.
And what level of freedom is given within the RPG aspect? Some games we would know as MMORPGs aren't necessarily massive. Some of them don't even require multiplayer. Some of them aren't even always online. But while I was writing a brief outline of all the important...
Is it because they're offline now? Yeah, I guess there are some MMORPGs that are just no longer online. Like WildStar it's an MMORPG, but it's a offline role-playing game.
Points I wanted to cover in this rather long topic, I saw this tweet by Mrs. Sticks, retweeted by MMO Byte. The original tweet reads, why do we love
MMO Byte? I remember MMO Byte. Wait a minute. Is MMO Byte the one who... let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, hold on. With a very specific style of thumbnail on your videos. Is that, yeah. This is this is MMO by all the thumbnails are just like this. This is that. Literally every single one is a huge booba. Yeah, this is absolutely massive. MMO booba. More like. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember.
Like MMOs so much if we keep playing it like a single player. And MMO Byte replies, it's such an unusual direction to take the genre, making it solo-friendly, less massively multiplayer. I think soon we're going to see MMORPGs.
Why do we like MMOs if we keep playing it like single player? Why do I invite friends over if I don't want to do anything and we just want to hang out and do our own thing, but in the same room? Like, I like to have someone come over and they're playing on their phone and I'm doing something else, but we're near each other. We're in proximity. That's the MMO we want. Okay. It's the company. You're around. I'm looking at you. We can say something. We don't have to be up each other's ass all the time to have fun together. Okay.
Simply become online role-playing games. The interesting aspect of that reply is he left out the MM, massively multiplayer. So if encouraging solo play of a multiplayer game is enough to justify changing the acronym, then the multiplayer element must be a core design pillar of this genre. This seemed like a good place to start exploring. Okay. I'm not saying MMO Byte is right or wrong in his reply, it's just a solid starting point. Because the
like, it is a good starting point for this discussion. But I think that you can have something be solo friendly, but you can still do it with other people. Like, there can be something that's fun that you can still do by yourself, or you can be doing that thing with other people. Like, you can have both within an MMO. I think that MMO should cater to both. To me, massively, it just means that there's a shitload of people that have that option to engage with you or not. And if it's incentivized, that's great. But it shouldn't be always mandatory, I feel.
Like a good place to start exploring. I'm not saying MMO Byte is right or wrong in his reply, it's just a solid starting point. Because is it a different direction? Or has this aspect actually always been there? Before we look at whether older MMORPGs even allowed solo play, never mind encouraged it, we have to ask a simple question of why would someone want to play solo? MMORPG, massively multiplayer. A genre which prides itself on giving you the ability to play with millions of other people.
It's because they got into a group with me. Like, people start out Final Fantasy, like, excited and, like, wanting to play with lots of people, and then they get matched into a group with me. And then all of a sudden, they don't like playing with other people anymore. They think that they're better off just with the duty support than, a healer that doesn't know what's going on half the time. So maybe it's just like,
the globe. Why would anyone choose to take on a multiplayer adventure?
They're tired of my bullshit.
Well, the answer's pretty simple. It's because you want to. The gameplay of an MMO is usually a fantastical adventure.
Stasha with Zepla is a non-install.
Down by slow, monotonous grinding between the exciting bits, leveling skills or killing the same enemy again and again. And while it can be nice to have company during these long stretches of repetition, it's not always wanted. People enjoy doing lots of things by themselves. I like real-time strategy games.
Okay, here's how Final Fantasy solves this problem. You're not ever alone because the NPCs are your friends. Okay? Like, I didn't feel like I was by myself when I was going through the main story quest because I want to know what's happening with Alphinaud. How's Alphinaud doing today? How's Alice? Let me go check on my girl, Alice. I didn't feel like I was all by myself because they're real. They're my friends and I care about them and I care about what happens to them. And so I don't really need to talk to other people about what's going on because I have Graha. Have you seen the way Graha wiggles his ears? And it's
But I
very
also
cute
like playing
boy.
against the computer.
And
I
I
like
don't-
Unreal Tournament against bots. I
It's
like
not
painting Warhammer by myself. All things which are considered boring and repetitive by some, and which could likely be improved by sharing the experience with someone else. But here's the thing. I do share those experiences with other people when I want to. If I want to play multiplayer games with other people, I will. Or if I want to paint models with other people,
Did you just try to jump on that? Did you just try to jump on that thing? I did. That, I think what we just seen was Guild Wars 2 brain in action. He's like, oh, I bet if I jump on this tapestry, then I'll be able to get to the vista at the top.
will. The important thing
Yeah.
is, I have the choice. When someone says they enjoy playing MMO games solo, it doesn't necessarily mean they avoid all human contact at all costs. It usually means they prefer to enjoy the game either alone or with a closer, more specific group of friends.
Yeah.
Because those friends enjoy the game in the same way they do, either
Okay.
focusing on the lore, the mechanics, or min-maxing. It's important to not...
But the thing is, I feel like in the right circumstances, it can be surprisingly easy to make a friend in an MMO. Like, or just have like a really friendly, positive interaction with another person just because you happen to be doing the same thing at the same time, like the same very specific thing at the same time. Like, I don't really, I'm new to Guild Wars 2, for example, and I know the buns, but like last night, I was playing and I was farming the clock tower. Yeah, I was just not to flex or anything, but I heard that you can get the achievement for doing it 5 times, and so I just kept going, just a few more times. Anyways, so I got to the top again. Okay, and I was at the top of the clock tower, and I'm standing next to the chest, and somebody else is standing next to the chest, and we're in there together, and we don't know each other, but all of a sudden, we're best buds, and we're, like, emoting, like, cheering, because we both made it to the top, and took some screenshots and stuff. Yeah.
Simply have a large player base for the sake of having a large player base if you don't actually interact with them. A fun play group who enhance the game for you is worth far more. Playing an MMO can often be a relaxing hobby.
Wait a minute. Did you hear Annie saying the clock tower must be easy since you beat it? Wow. Wow, guys. See the... I thought you guys thought that was really hard and you were really proud of me. Are you telling me it wasn't really hard and you were just pretending it was hard to make me feel better? Which one is it?
While constant interaction with people can be a draining hobby in both the real world and the virtual. Sometimes you just want to come home from a day surrounded by people and go and exist in a fantastical virtual world by yourself. Yes, there are other people also in this world, but that's actually a calming element of it, because you don't need to spend energy interacting with them, it's just nice to have them there. Other players are acting as free-thinking, feeling background characters, framing your own adventure, lending the world weight and reality. Knowing that your actions affect a living world without the emotional effort of constantly needing to be social in that world is enjoyable. Playing an
So other people can be NPCs too. Yeah.
MMO with a group
That's
means
what you're
you
saying.
will have certain expectations.
You can actually treat other people like NPCs.
It's requirements of you. You'll have to keep up with any chat that's going on or play your class. You have a role to fulfill and you can't let your team down. And that's pressure. Sometimes you want to experience the gameplay of an MMORPG, the world, the music, the characters, the lore, the story, or the mechanics without that pressure of feeling like you need to fulfill a role in a team. You can have the game on in the background while you watch a film, watch Netflix, read a book, or even do some work, or most likely what you're doing right now, which is watching some YouTube videos. It can be nice to...
I mean, you can do a dungeon in Final Fantasy, and when I'm doing a dungeon, I feel like the bar is so low. Like, it's so easy to get through a dungeon that I really can be sitting there watching Netflix while I'm doing it. That's group content that you don't even need to feel pressured to try hard in it all. Like, just follow along and do your AoEs. Like, so it's kind of like removing all of that social pressure.
Without the pressure that being
like, what I'm saying is that being in a team doesn't always mean that you will feel pressure. Okay. Sometimes the pressure is just non-existent because the content is very easy. And then some people join a team for harder content and they don't feel any pressure to improve or do well for the team at all. Okay, that's most of the people that I've met in Party Finder. Like, I haven't noticed them experiencing any kind of pressure to do well around just because we're in a team. So I feel like this pressure doesn't apply to everybody. Some people just do not experience it.
Inputs on you. Whatever your favorite MMO is, it can always be played in the background. And if you aren't playing an MMO right now, consider downloading this video's sponsor, Guild Wars 2. This is the second video of mine that Guild Wars 2 have sponsored quite recently, which makes me think the management team have finally found the marketing team hiding in a long-forgotten office somewhere or just playing jumping puzzles all day and are demanding they actually start doing their job and sponsoring some YouTube.
Oh my god, you are gonna roast the marketing team on a sponsored video. They're paying you money to make this video and you're gonna take the piss out of them in the advertisement section, Josh. Use your YouTuber brain. What are you doing? You're gonna piss them off. Hey, Guild Wars 2 team, if you don't like the way that Josh is talking about you doing nothing in his videos, well, I wouldn't mind making a very respectful video for you guys. Just let me know. I don't have that kind of audacity like Josh.
Or something. I've played Guild Wars 2 since it launched all the way back in 2012, and it's been one of the few MMOs I've installed on every PC I've had since then, and finally, after like 5 years of coming soon, it's actually released on Steam. They've even released 2 very positive reviews. The latest expansion, End of Dragons, brings a ton of new content without invalidating
wait,
since
what?
then, and finally, after released on Steam. They've even released 2 very positive reviews. The latest
They've released 2... Okay, what does
expansion, End of Dragons, brings a ton of new content without invalidating the previous expansions, Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire, but you don't need to buy anything.
Oh, spoilers! I can't look at that. I don't want to see the monsters. I like to be surprised.
A massive free trial. The base game is free with no time limit, and if you do like it, it is a one-time purchase with no monthly sub. Once you own Guild Wars 2, you own...
That's how they get you, man. They're full of shit. Yeah, there's no monthly sub. Yeah, you can just buy the game and play it. True. But then you get in there and they show you all these really adorable outfits in the fucking cash shop that they don't tell you about at the free trial screen. Oh yeah, it's free trial and no sub, but you're definitely gonna want to look cute, right? Yeah, they don't tell you all that. How much money you might be spending on the cute outfits and the cute minions and the Shiba and the little puppers and kittens they got for sale in there. And the bag space and the shared inventory space. Oh, they got me good with their no sub fee. It better not be a sub fee with all the money I'm spending on this game already.
And given the amount of hours I've got out of this game, Guild Wars 2 is probably the best value money I've ever spent on a video game. To celebrate the Steam launch, there's a link in the description. You can sign up, get a code, and grab the game on Steam, and then if you want, you can redeem the code for an experience boost pack, some karma boosting, and a 10-slot bag with a mini pet. This all says...
Chat says you can look good for free. Just grind the game for golds. Yeah. That's the reason why I'm not too scared about my status as a fashion addict, because I know that I will be able to grind out the gold to get all the cute stuff and just change the gold for the gems so I can get it that way and not go broke playing this game. Okay. Like if there was no way to change the gold for the gems, I would probably quit because I know me. Okay. Like, I don't have this kind of money laying around right now. even though I'm a millionaire streamer. Yeah. Apparently. People think that. Maybe if Guild Wars 2 sponsored me, then I'd be able to do that. But, yeah.
Saves you about $10, and it's free, so there's no reason not to. There's a new player guide on the website, although the in-game tutorial is actually really good. There's great build variety in the classes, and the mount system is so good it is now the standard by which other games are to be judged. Now, regular viewers will know that I don't accept sponsorships unless I can personally vouch for the product, and honestly, Guild Wars 2 is just
that is
really
true.
good.
That is true, though. Like, Josh is the real deal. And I know that he wouldn't do an ad unless... in fact, he's one of the reasons why I got into this game. Is because I watched so many videos of his about MMOs. And he always talking about how good Guild Wars 2 is. Is always talking about it. And so one day I finally felt like, well, I might as well try it. He keeps talking about it. And then I heard, Dragonflight stole dragon riding from Guild Wars 2. So that's another reason why I decided to give it a try as well. So like he's actually a big reason. However, there's an issue that I'm having. I use ultra wide, and I don't know if this is a problem, but I mean, is it a problem? Or is it a feature? Is it a bug, or is it a feature? I use ultra wide, and so some of the characters that are very tall look odd in these cutscenes. Okay, like that's how some of the cutscenes, like, see, this character is very tall, so her head is cut off. And I'm pretty much just only looking at her booba while she's talking. So that's an issue that I'm experiencing. Is it? Yeah, is that, I don't know. Am I doing it wrong? Is it, if I have a setting that's wrong? Because it's widescreen. Like, I don't know. But I wish they would fix that.
MMORPG game with a great deal of content that every player should at least try. Right, back to talking about solo MMO gameplay. When I play MMORPGs on stream, I often have people following me around, but I would still consider myself a mostly solo player, despite the fact I enjoy dungeons and team-based events. So how does that work? Well, the simple fact that I'm playing with people doesn't mean that I'm...
Is what he's showing... What is this game that he's showing?
Interacting with them or connecting to them in any meaningful way. And I think it's this lack of meaning...
Is this Guild Wars 1?
...connection to other people that people often confuse with the lack of multiplayer elements. There is a long-held belief that newer MMORPGs are pushing people more towards solo-focused play.
It's not a belief, it's a fact. Yoshi P has straight up said that multiple times, that is what he wants. That is his goal. That is one of his big priorities for the future, is to make it all solo-friendly. Like, at least make the main story quest solo-friendly, so you can go in and do it anytime. So, yeah, it's a real...
Exist in a world with other people, but you don't necessarily
interact
with them.
Conspiracy
I've even made a video
theory
called Social to Solo, where I look at how the design philosophy has changed over the years, allowing people to experience the games solo. But were older games actually more cooperative? Did they demand more teamwork, or do people simply remember them as more cooperative because hanging out with people online was novel for the time, so people did that aspect more? The massively multiplayer part is a major point of contention within the MMORPG community. What is massive? It's not quantified. It's far too vague. From games design...
No, I mean, it was... Like, if you have to know people to put the group together, then that's going to feel more social than the machine automatically queuing you together. Like, because having a packed friends list, knowing lots of people that, okay, I know this guy's a healer, I can write them and ask them if they're down to do this. Like, that was better if a social experience. It was a bigger pain in the ass. It can be debatable whether it was worth it in the end, but I think it was a better and it was a richer social experience.
To players, we don't know what you want massive to count as. 1,000 players, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, or 10 million. If you count 1 million players as massive, can I have 1 million people on my friends list? Could I have an ignore list 1 million players long? Will there ever be a zone where you could actually have 1 million players all at one time?
Yeah.
Could you even interact with 1 million if you wanted to? If you have a number higher than the amount of players a single player could realistically be expected to engage with at any one time, is that enhancing your player base, or is that simply padding it out? How big is massive, and how big does massive need to be for the players to actually notice? Old school RuneScape has hundreds of thousands of active players, so it could rightfully be called a massively successful game, and it's definitely multiplayer, but each individual world holds up to 2,000 people, meaning even if you had every single player on a given world in the same space, you'd only be interacting with a tiny fraction of the total player base at any one time. And you wouldn't like...
Massive. It just means that there are a lot of people around. Like, wait, that's 5 head. Massive means there's many people. 5 head. I figured it out for you. You don't have to quantify it down to a specific number. Over 200, like over 100 people. That's a massive number of people. Yeah. Unless the zone is really big and everybody's spread out, then it's not massive. Okay. So it needs to be like a bunch of people all stacked on top of each other. Everybody all together, stacked on top of each other, their hands all over each other, for it to be a massively multiplayer.
To be able to form any meaningful connection with any one of them in the mass of players.
And you don't need to form a meaningful connection with them for you to have a good time.
Scrolls Online has its mega servers, shards, all existing simultaneously, but instead of showing you every player around you, it has phasing, where you'll always see enough players for the world to feel full, but never so many you feel overwhelmed, which makes it easier to form connections. But is this still massive if you're experiencing a curated version of the player base?
Yeah.
Is the word massive more about the reality?
It's about perception.
Of who you interact with in the game, or the greater community around the game?
No.
If the majority of your game is dungeons and raids with, say, 5, 10 or 25 people in a raid, are you actually interacting with 25 people? Or are you interacting with thousands of people in groups of 25 at a time? Or are you interacting at all? Does a dungeon run with no connection to another player even count as interaction? You're as close to a random player in a random group as you are to a stranger you walk alongside while walking through town, or someone sat 2 seats behind you on a roller coaster.
That's why I go out of my way to cause problems, because if I don't, then it won't feel like they're in a multiplayer game. Like if I just do everything right, like an NPC would, then they're going to feel lonely and they're going to not even notice me there. But if I cause problems for everybody, then they'll know that they're in a multiplayer game and they're having a social experience, you know? So I try to just make sure that I try to give that to people, give that experience to them and remind them that they're, not the only cock on the block. I don't know why I said that. That doesn't make sense. That's not even an expression.
Just because you're going on the same journey doesn't mean you're taking the journey together. MMOs are often broken down into styles of theme park versus sandbox. Would going to a theme park alone count as interacting with everyone at the park? Could you say you've had a multiplayer experience? And should anyone be stopped having that experience if they are alone? Most often, it's less about the potential of who you could interact with and more
I feel like some people do want that. I feel like some people do want an MMO where it's like only them in it. Like, there was the post the other day on the forum, someone asking, can I get a hide all players option? And I think there's probably, tools that make that possible for people, like to literally hide every other player. Like, there's some people who play an MMO and, hold on. They want to play it like Cartman in his theme park, where he's the only one that can be in it. You remember this episode where he's like,
you can't come. That's right, because in Cartman Land, only I, Eric Cartman, can get in. That means only I can ride the all-new...
It's like the people that bought up all of the housing plots in a neighborhood so only they could use it. That's the same mentality.
Roller coaster that splashes into water.
And this people that hide all other players, this is what you're fucking
It's the
doing.
greatest amusement park in the Colorado area, and nobody can go, especially Stan and Cam.
Anyway, yeah, there's people that really want that. They would love that. Yeah.
Who you actually do interact with. A small group of 5 to 10 friends talking and adventuring together will feel a lot more social and connected than 500 players silently running the same dungeon again and again. Quality really does beat quantity when it comes to meaningful human interactions. Psychologists have even studied how many people we can actually feel connected to. It's known as Dunbar's number, and it's around 150 people. Any more and you simply cannot connect to them on an individual personal level.
Oh my god. What? Oh my god. All right, Buns. I know this is hard to hear, but I've got to pick only 150 of you to like. And the rest of you guys, you're on your ass. I'm sorry. Okay, who's going to be my 150 special Buns that I will... Okay. I see. Yo Monroe. Okay. Let me jot these names down. Okay, Drosa. Okay. All right. Good. Well, we gotta figure it out because it's the maximum number. I'm capped. I'm capped on caring. Yeah, I have a cap for how much I can care about people. So let me just count up how many. Let's get everybody in to the care corral.
Even if your game does have 1 million billion players,
Wait, did you say Bunbar's number? That's Bunbar's number, yeah.
150 of them may be close enough to you to be meaningful to play with. The massively part of the acronym can sometimes be a bit of a false selling point. Having 1 million players means nothing unless you're required to interact with all 1 million, and if you are, that's overwhelming. Having enough players to make your game feel fleshed out and full...
No, we should make an MMO where it's 1 million people in it, and you're forced to interact with every single one. You're forced to do a dungeon with every single person that in that 1 million before you can get your bis. Then, and only then, can you be crowned the king of the cock of the block.
But not too many to overwhelm, while still maintaining those personal relationships is a good amount to aim for. The potential for connections is massive.
Yeah.
But until the player chooses to realize those potentials and actually interact with and connect to people, it remains potential.
So hear what I'm saying. Don't let your dreams be memes. Connect with people. Cause problems.
Not realized. Many modern MMO games are designed
Don't be
so
forgotten. Don't be an NPC. Give people the social experience that they came for.
Needs to interact with people, but you can if you choose to. The potential is there, but it's not required. It's this change in design, this facilitation of solo play in a genre which prides itself on multiplayer aspects that many people point to as the downfall of the genre. They say MMORPGs used to be games which needed player interaction and so forced those connections between players, resulting in long-term friendships, guilds or clans. And now taking that away, the genre is weaker for it. And this is of course subjective.
A lot of people say that.
Maybe I should go back and play an older MMORPG and see how that handles the facilitation of solo play to gather some information on this strange phenomenon. Now, I've played a lot of MMORPGs, some for thousands of hours, some for only a few, but most of them have allowed me to have a pretty decent solo experience, teaming up with people when I wanted to, playing alone when I wanted to, and I value this. MMORPGs often advertise themselves by saying you can have your own adventure, especially the sandbox games. Live your own way, forge your own path, and if I want that path to be alone, who occasionally teams up, that should be something I can choose to do.
But how is the social experience in a game like classic World of Warcraft? Like, how has that been? Because it's sort of been an experiment in the way that modern gamers engage with these systems of like being more involved and collecting people for your team.
If you look at many of the modern MMO offerings, you'll see
solo
play is not only viable but often encouraged.
He said it's been hell.
Old School RuneScape and RuneScape 3 both have their Iron Man mode, literally cutting off a layer of interaction with other
It was never good. People are just huffing copium about their nostalgia. Toxic. I mean, yeah, it is easy to huff copium about the nostalgia. I heard once that this really bothered me when I heard it. I heard that your memory of something is actually only a memory of the last time you remembered it. It's not a picture perfect recollection of the experience itself, but it's your brain reminding you of the last checkpoint, which was the last time that you thought about it. And it can be colored by your own like opinions and perceptions as time goes on. That's why sometimes someone will tell a story and you were with them, but they tell it differently than you remember, even though you guys were together and you experienced the same event. They remember it differently, maybe for better, maybe for worse. And sometimes I think that that's what's happened in the way that I remember my experience in vanilla World of Warcraft, when I remember all the charm. I remember all the good times, and I feel like maybe that's the things that you more often go back to, more often think back to. All the friend requests that I sent out, and all the friends that whispered me saying, oh yeah, I'm ready, I can go with you, and like all the times that it felt good, and not so much all the times when I was like everything fell apart. We could never get anything done. It took hours and hours, and it was just like a huge pain in the ass all the time. Here we go. Let's go back to the video.
Players by removing trading, forcing you to survive this harsh world on your own. And most of the endgame bosses can be soloed. Indeed, when I spoke to Mod Kieran and Elena about the latest raid coming out, I asked specifically if they designed this to be solo possible, and they had. The Elder Scrolls Online has a solo-focused story with fully voice-acted cutscenes and lots of solo instances as you travel to save Tamriel, and the world bosses are possible solo but incredibly tough. Guild Wars 2 is the same, a deep involving story with a vast majority of the game being solo-friendly. And when the grouping does
so
happen,
far I haven't had any problem soloing in Guild Wars 2. And in Elder Scrolls Online, I think I always played it solo. I think I did maybe 1% of my time in that game was with other players.
It happens impromptu, it gets organised behind the scenes, so just by being near someone, you're automatically working toward the same goal as them, meaning you can now work together alone.
Here's the thing too, though, like, even though I like to play those games solo, I feel like there are a lot of people who enjoy playing games solo, but they need that game to be popular. They need to know that there's a shitload of people playing that game. Even though they are not playing it with those other people, they're playing it by themselves. There's like, I mean, maybe it's something in the human psychology that makes you want to be in the place where everybody's at. You want to be in the place where it's popping off, where you can, where everyone is, even if you guys aren't directly working with each other. You want to be where the party's at.
Star Wars The Old Republic is one of the better single-player Star Wars games and Star Wars stories, which just happens to be online. It takes place in an online world with other players. Even the flashpoints, team-based dungeons, will supply you with AI-controlled NPCs to complete them if you don't have a team. Now, I'm not saying these games
like, hear me out. If you were playing an MMO completely solo, and then for some reason, just imagine, even though you're playing it completely solo, the game is dead. Everyone stops playing it. Now, you're not doing anything that requires other people at all. In your gameplay, you don't want to do anything with other people. You're not doing anything with other. But one day, everybody leaves the game, and it's completely dead. Would you keep playing it? I think there's some people who would, but I think there's a lot of people who would leave once that happened, just because it started to feel empty and lonely.
Don't have multiplayer content. Old School RuneScape has Barbarian Assault, a minigame which needs a team. The Elder Scrolls Online has its dungeons. Guild Wars 2 has the PvP battlegrounds and the fractals. These games all have content which cannot be completed solo, but this isn't usually early game or story focused. These multiplayer experiences are usually extra, in addition to the main game. Indeed, Star Wars supplying AI NPCs to accompany solo players through dungeons by fleshing out the team is a
That's what we're doing in Final Fantasy. We got duty support, we got trust now.
I've been a big fan of for a long time.
It's nice.
Allowing solo players to experience what your game has poured endless hours of design into is a good idea. It's the same reason I really like the henchman system in Guild Wars 1 a lot, but we'll get onto this
What's
later.
that?
So we can see that modern
What's the henchman system? Is that like trust? Like people you can hire to come on with you to the party?
MMOs are mostly accessible to solo players, with the choice to connect to others if you want to. But let's go.
You said you wouldn't mind because you're gold making and well. Oh, you wouldn't. Sorry, not you wouldn't mind. I misread. While I'm playing alone, it does require other players. Yeah, you need customers. Yeah, you need customers. Night Drake, thanks for subbing. I really appreciate it.
Back and see how older MMOs handle this. I decided to go back and try and play EverQuest 1 on Steam.
So henchmen are bad trusts. Later they added heroes, which are customizable trusts.
Live version, not the Project 99 original. I even streamed the whole thing on YouTube. The VOD is available to go back and watch if you want to. And I'll likely stream more because I actually really enjoyed EverQuest 1. It's janky in places and it's far too convoluted in others. It relies a lot on keyboard shortcuts and typing your interactions, and target enemy is bound to F8 and not tab, and it's hard to click through things, which threw me a little, but all in all, it's a very well-made game. Now, EverQuest released back in 1999, and it's not only still going, but it's still being actively updated. It's had 28 expansions, with the 29th planned for release in 2023. That is an insanely successful lifespan for an MMORPG.
It is.
It is testament to the quality of the game that it still has an active player base.
True.
Now, EverQuest is often given as an example
I
of
wouldn't
an
play
old-school, hardcore MMORPG. It's harsh, it's unforgiving. You need to rely on your team to survive, and that is indeed true. EverQuest is a hard game, both in gameplay and in the meta elements of the gameplay. Understanding the UI and navigating all the keyboard shortcuts will take you some time to learn. The thing with EverQuest is there's a lot of downtime between the gameplay moments. As a mage, you need to sit down to recover your mana, and this means as a fighter, you'll be waiting for the mage. There's a lot of moments where nothing is happening, and so you will talk to the players in your group. When EverQuest was big in 1999 and 2000, you didn't have Netflix. You didn't have a second monitor to watch YouTube on. You would focus entirely on the game, and then
Wait a minute. Josh, are you against the second monitor? I mean, Josh being against the second monitor is like biting the hand that feeds you. I mean, where do you think you're living on people's screen? Josh saying, oh my gosh, I paused it. You said the core people work on Guild Wars 1 and 2 were some of the most creative minds in the industry that left Blizzard. Oh yeah, because someone else mentioned it, how crazy it is that so many modern MMO mechanics can be traced back to Guild Wars 1 or 2. And that's something that has been really eye-opening for me as a new player in Guild Wars 2, is seeing how much stuff I'm like, wait a minute, this looks an awful lot like that thing from World of Warcraft, or this actually looks a lot like something that I'm familiar with in Final Fantasy. And I often am asking myself, wait a minute, did Guild Wars invent this first?
or you would find the fun within the game, which, for the majority of the game, was talking to other people. So when I played EverQuest, I decided to read all the classes, and what really stood out to me was the description of the Necromancer class. In character creation, the class is described as...
Why?
Necromancers are a very self-sufficient class and often choose to adventure alone, though they can provide great value to a group as well. The Necromancer is an excellent choice for the independent player who enjoys a wide variety of abilities. On the EverQuest wiki, the class is described as one of the best soloing classes throughout the game. Now, EverQuest has seen many changes throughout the years. I assumed maybe this was a modern update, but there's a version of the game known as Project 99 which emulates the original experience without any of the quality of life upgrades. And the project...
Are you suggesting that there should be a job that is just for soloing stuff? That's just for soloing content? I mean, that could... The thing is, like, in a game like World of Warcraft, you can just do that by picking like feral druid. Just go play a fucking cat druid and nobody won't want to play with you, and then you'll be doing solo content.
99 wiki entry for the Necromancer describes it as such, the Necromancer is very independent. Few support classes are able to offer anything that the Necromancer does not already have, and items and gear do not carry the same importance as they do for other classes. The Wiki class highlights section even says, Necromancers are one of the most independent of all classes, being designed with a number of self-only spells that certain other casters can cast on others. Example, self-only invisibility and self-only evacuation, making it a prime choice for those that plan to solo the majority of their careers. However, because of the wide variety of abilities, many not gained until higher levels, a Necromancer must constantly learn new ways to play their class. So even back in 1999, before the popular argument that MMORPGs were becoming too solo-friendly, in the game that many consider one of the grandfathers of the genre, there was a class specifically designed to allow people to adventure.
So basically all those people are full of shit. So basically all the people that are like, oh, MMOs are getting too solo friendly and they're not like the MMOs that I remember back in the day, they're actually full of shit, because the most back in the day MMO of all time had a solo friendly job in it. We're just destroying the people that said all that right now.
Alone.
They're in shambles
when I
right
played Meridian 59, considered the first 3D MMORPG, the opening crypt tutorial section has a door which requires 2 people to open. You must pull 2 levers at the same time. And while it is...
Wait, what the fuck? Wait.
9 considered the first 3D specifically designed to allow people to adventure alone.
Wait,
when I
what?
played Meridian 59, considered the first 3D...
Oh, man. I can always expect this kind of shit from Josh. Like, what? This is like an MMO from the medieval era. This is an MMO that they created weapons that were contemporary at the time. It is so old. This is an actual map of the development studio. They don't even have to use their imagination. It's that fucking old. Josh always has this kind of games on his videos. Like, well, when I was playing Meridian 59, which is the oldest MMO ever made. The first Stone Age MMO.
The tutorial section has a door which requires 2 people to open. You must pull 2 levers at the same time. And while it is technically possible to do solo with almost frame-perfect inputs, it's not a required room. It simply leads to an optional boss and some low-level loot. In fact, nothing about Meridian 59 demands you team up to play. How about Guild Wars 1, considered by many to not be an MMORPG, but instead, including by themselves, an online role-playing game? How does this differ? Well, in Guild Wars 1, the world is broken down into maps, both safe or dangerous, and the only times you will see other players in Guild Wars 1 is when you're all in a hub city or a safe outpost. When you travel outside of the city, you'll only ever see yourself or any other players you specifically teamed up with while you were in that safe area. So if you leave town without talking to another player, is the game going to force you to adventure solo?
Yeah.
Well, no.
That's
There's an
weird
NPC
system.
henchman system. By the exits of any safe map, you'll find a row of henchmen you can invite to your team.
That's really weird. So you must gather your party before venturing forth, or they will cease to exist. It's like Schrodinger's party.
They'll fight by your side throughout the map, acting as regular players. In fact, once you're a higher level, you can actually turn your own characters into mercenaries, meaning they will now be available as NPC supports when you play on other characters.
Okay, we need that. Yeah, we need that shit. That's what we need. We need that for the trust system, so that I can have like 4, 5, 6, 7 bunny boys follow me.
So you're supported by your own old characters.
Yeah.
There's this lack of open world player interaction which leads people to describe Guild Wars 1 as an online RPG, not necessarily a massively multiplayer online RPG.
Okay.
Even Final Fantasy XIV is considered an RPG first with an MMO second, meaning it's focused more on the personal journey of the player through its story with multiplayer elements added on, such as the dungeons and the raids, and then the daily roulette allowing you to find a team quickly to receive your reward for playing. But just look at the memes. People say the end game of almost any MMO, including Final Fantasy XIV and Guild Wars 2, is fashion. Just chatting in Limsa Lominsa, or trying to turn yourself into a light bulb. Extremely social things to do. Socializing is alive and well in many MMOs because the choice is there, while it's also not being forced onto the solo connection player if they don't want to. This means the MM part of the acronym.
So would you say that the social element is better served by excellent emotes and like excellent fluff and silly things people can do together, and like the housing system and the fashion system so people can collect things together and show off things together, more so than forcing people into content together? Is that
Massively multiplayer seems to relate to both the player base size and the potential to interact with them in the game world at random, not the social need or demand.
Because actually, it's one thing that I've noticed comparing role-playing in Final Fantasy XIV versus role-playing in World of Warcraft. I know role-playing isn't for everyone, but just talking about that specifically for right now, Final Fantasy XIV has a lot of fantastic emotes. The emote system is amazing. It's like way, way better than any other MMO that I've seen. And I feel like that alone, allowing people to express themselves better in the game through their character, as dumb as that sounds, it makes people more willing and more want to do that more. It's like it just helps them get more of themselves into the character and into the game, if that makes sense. Like better communication options. But and also I also would add on to that about social features and things that help people hang out together. Something World of Warcraft does extremely well is to incentivize that in what I think is a great way is through the guild system, the guild achievements, and like incentivizing people to join the guilds and specific things that you guys can do together in dungeons or in raids or random stuff to get achievements that will give you mounts and minions and titles and other things like that. Like fun stuff that people can do together fairly easily. Little bit of carrot on the stick to get people to do that sort of stuff, I think is helpful.
To experience the majority of the game. Aspect hasn't gone anywhere. You can still do that. You just don't need to do it as frequently. People often say to me, yes, I know you can still do that, but older games encouraged it, so people did it more. And that might be true, but if people are doing something because they're pushed to do it without a choice, that doesn't necessarily mean they would do it if given the choice. In modern day MMOs, we see that choice exist more, and more players are choosing to play with smaller, closer-knit groups of friends, or refer to themselves as solo players. A playstyle which has always been on some level supported, but is now much, much more popular.
I mean, the thing is that you might be a solo player one day, but it doesn't mean that you always want that forever. Like sometimes we have this tendency to categorize people as like, oh, they're a solo player and that's all they ever want to do. But usually I think people tend to flex between like, sometimes I want to be more social. Sometimes I want to do more interactive content with other players. And sometimes I just want to be off on my own. That's at least how I am.
So have MMORPGs become less social? Not really.
That's why you need to be able to cater to both play styles in your MMO because people are not just like monoliths that are unchanging. They have different needs at different times, and they might be moody. They might feel one way one day and do certain things, some antisocial way one day, and then the next day want to, have a big party and be where everybody's at and do big raids and things together. I definitely fluctuate between those two moods all the time, and so I think having different options for those people and of course for the people that always just want to be alone. It's healthy for the game. It's healthy to draw more people into the game. And I would also say that having those options available, bringing in people that normally would consider themselves solo only, can get them to maybe come out of their shell a little bit. And they might experiment here and there with doing stuff with a group. And maybe they might find that they do like working with a group a bit more. But pressuring people into that is only going to drive people away that maybe could have, with a gentler touch, been, lured in a little bit better.
Once the Be Social is still there, there's just other stuff to do as well. Unlike the downtime in EverQuest when you would sit down to restore your mana and therefore you had nothing else to do but talk to someone, you now have hundreds of other things to do, both in and out of the game.
I mean, it's funny because I was leveling in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, and I was playing Resto Druid in the Nexus, and you had to wait for, they had to wait for me. I found out I was out of mana, but I forgot that that's a game where, you need drinks on you to like regenerate your mana. So I didn't come prepared at all with any drinks. And I was like, I told the group, hey, I'm out of mana. But actually what I said was, because I was in tree form. So I said, my roots are dry. My roots are dry as fuck. I'm withering. My leaves are falling off. Inside the group, like everybody started giving me like random drinks. Like one guy gave me a bunch of like pungent seal away, and the other guy gave me like the crystal mountain, and everybody in the party gave me like this random shit that they had in their bags, and they're like, drink up, Sprout, drink up, little tree. And I'm like, what? It was hilarious. We ended up having a lot of fun with it, and I ended up role playing a tree the whole time. So I had a great time doing that, and it was because we had these like spaces in between bosses where I had to replenish my root system and hydrate myself.
An MMORPG solo? Because you want to. At that exact moment, you maybe don't want to interact with people. You maybe don't want to be relied upon to play your role within a team. It doesn't mean that you won't interact with
I also remember there's a boss in there called something the Tree Shaper, and I was freaking out because that's the name of the boss. It's like something the Tree Shaper, and I was like, oh god, I don't want to be shaped.
people in the future, or wait till your mates log on and join up with them. It doesn't mean that you won't
Don't shape
talk
me.
to someone as they cut a
Don't
tree
shape
down
me,
or
bro.
mine a rock next to you. It just means that you have lots of other choices other than being social to distract you. It just means you want to exist within this multiplayer world as a single player for a short time. And there's nothing to stop you from doing that. And if you play an MMO solo, you're not playing it wrong. You're just enjoying your adventure your way.
It's sad that he has to say that. Okay, that seems obvious, but he has to say that because there are actually a ton of people that are like, every time they hear Yoshi P say that he wants to make the game more solo friendly, there's always these people that are like, why would you want to be solo in an MMO? It's an MMO. You should be forced to play with me anytime. You should be at my beck and call. I should have a bell that summons you to my instance, to my dungeon, anytime that I need a healer, and you shouldn't be allowed to go do whatever the fuck you're doing. You should be up my ass all the time.